Hello my friends and welcome to part 204 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Let's Play series. So in today's video I'll be going over the first part for the Nitroria. I could have maybe done both, but I decided I'm going to split it up in case the next part is the last Master video, or maybe my last video of my YouTube career. I'm still deciding. But either way, I think I'm just gonna take a break. But of course, if there's new stuff that maybe there's a new festival or a new gate coming out, but before we get to that next video, maybe I'll go over that. So kind of also a way to be able to cover another verse, and also as a way to cover the next Goosebumps, because I think the next one is pretty good. It's gonna be next week's is gonna be Slappy, covering the Living Dummy books, or next video at least, if it's not next week. But I'll try to get next week, but of course not always happening. But yeah, it looks like it was a little bit of a fix they had to do for Exceed Cup, but nothing too big. But there are some pretty big news. I guess, you know what, I guess I'll just tell you, because I kind of looked at them, and so I might forget. So in case I do forget, some of the big news is that now there's going to be a selection pack coming. And the big thing about that is I think Heavy Storm and Snatch Steal is going to be included in this selection pack as well. And those are getting unbanned, like Heavy Storm being limited, Snatch Steal being unlimited. That should be kind of cool, even if they don't really make a huge impact. Anyway, let's get on to the story here. On this planet, there's no woodland stretching out. It is a vast fertile region called home to bugs, plants, stones, and other creatures given life by the earth itself. There's no war here, and rarely are there any disturbances save for the occasional human wandering in. The forest inhabitants are peaceful in nature and always try to avoid conflict. The Nitroria have reshaped the vegetation to block passage through the forest, and the rock Nitroria have closed off the dangerous cliffs and holes to create a path. In order to lead the wandering humans away from the heart of the forest and prevent them from getting deeper into the forest, now and again when an innocent child strays in, the Nitroria themselves will appear to guide the way back home. However, not all who stray in the forest are pure in their intentions. Some scoundrels are scheming to steal away a part of the forest keeper's body. It is said the power within it would raise a man's strength onto that of a god. It is said to be an ingredient for a miracle elixir that grants eternal life and cures all disease. Yeah, well, heaven also does that, so. It is said that the sum it would fetch would be too great to spend even in 3 lifetimes. Having placed their faith in these dubious whisperings, they have trespassed deep into the forest. The inhabitants of the forest show no mercy to introduce with such ignoble aims. Even the non-violent Nitroria have their ways of roughing up intruders and encouraging them to go back whence they came. That said, the Nitroria do not wish to maim or kill anybody. For instance, the posh intruders reached out to take a bite of Nitroria strawberry. But hidden in the fruit's shadow is the prick of Nitroria horn needle. The intruders lied in surprise, only to be caught in the web of Nitroria's spider fang. Dangling helplessly, they then receive a tackle from Nitroria bamboo shoot. How the intruders fled with all their might, rubbing the bruises and licking the wounds. Many of the Natroya are small stature and equally slight in strength. But by cooperating as neighbors, they help each other to protect the forest from the enemies. Things continued in the manner for hundreds upon thousands of years, the forest blessed with abundance and united in peace. However, eventually a new menace appeared that threatened the very way of life. These invaders from outer space are known as worms. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. I honestly think my favorite Natroya card is the Bamboo Shoot, just because when you can actually get off, its effect of locking your opponent out of all spells and traps is pretty cool. What makes a Natroya deck unique? Hold on. Offsetting the low attack and defense, many Natroya monsters have effects to deal with the opponent's actions, though there's a limit to how much a single card can handle. You can make yourself a solid setup by deploying several monsters. Use effects like those of Natroya Mole Cricket to enable fusion plays. Yeah, it's kind of hard to bring out the fusion. Like, I wasn't able to once. It's so difficult to bring out the fusion. No summon Natroya Chameleon activates effect. Yeah, even in a dedicated Natroya deck, the fact that you pretty much need to have like a whole bunch of Natroya Syncos out makes it really hard. And of course, Sacred Tree, when sent to the graveyard, just by any means, you get to add a Natroya monster. Such a cool effect as well. I would say the hardest one, which the hardest duel out of all of these, which you won't see in this, at least when you're playing the loner deck. I was having so much trouble with the difficulty 5 duel, which I guess makes sense because it's difficulty 5, but I think this time difficulty 5 duel is kind of just off the chain. I mean, I was able to get in one, but as you'll see later on, but I mean later on in a future video, but like the first time I tried doing it, I couldn't get it, and then like I just ran out of time, so I decided I'm just gonna do a retry with that. So here, kind of cool, I was able to make both, but even with that, see, I had to use the spell to make these two, and now I no longer have the spell for doing the fusion, so now I can't even go into the fusion. So this is just examples of why it's so hard to make the fusion. And it, I like even if you're, I mean, maybe, I mean, I guess there's, maybe it's just hard because you're playing the lone index, but maybe if someone can let me know if they found a way to be able to pretty much consistently make the fusion, like by normal means, in a normal Natroya deck, not by cheating out, but by normal means. How many cards are there that can like banish the fusion materials in order to bring it out? I guess you could just like send them to the graveyard through cheating means and then just make it that way, but I don't know how many fusion cards can banish them from the graveyard. And unfortunately, the Blessing can't really do that. It has to be while they're on the field. Yeah, and here's the first of the main duels where I'm basically using the practice duel deck and against my opponent's similar looking pure, pretty much Natroya deck. Maybe not super pure in the fact that we're not really running all Natroya synchros, which, I mean, kind of makes sense anyway. But, like, pure enough. It's definitely more pure than the upcoming duels. Which you won't see in this part, but you will see the ending scenario. I don't normally show that I wouldn't normally show that in the first part, but I pretty much had to this time because I need the accessory that you would receive from completing it in order to unlock the lock gate. I mean, I guess I could have still technically just did the ending scenario and then the post gate stuff, but since I had time for both, technically that it would have made this like about the same length as the other, and now the next one is kind of a lot shorter than this one, but I figure it's okay. This one's still under 30 minutes, so it's fine. And I consider anything, as long as it's under 30 minutes, as a win. Anyway, while I'm going through this, I think I'm gonna do the verse here first off. I'll do the verse reading and then the verse discussion. So the verse for today comes to you from Matthew 5:16. It says, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." As always, is coming from YouVersion, otherwise known as Bible.com, however you want to look at it. But if you want to look at it from a more standard variation text, this is the New International Version translation. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. And that comes from Matthew 5:16. Once again. So this one's talking about good deeds, and doing good deeds so that Jesus will see them and be pleased about them. Of course, like, the ultimate way to get into heaven isn't from doing a whole bunch of good deeds, but still the nice thing about doing good deeds is that they will help keep your eyes focused on Jesus, and maybe even bring a few others into simply believing, because I mean, the way in heaven seems easy, but it's something a lot of people still miss, which is kind of crazy, but that's just the way it is. But I hope none of my watchers here will miss that part. That's one of the reasons I'm still doing this, at least for a little bit more time. And maybe even during my break, I hope like the people who watch me will still continue to do their good work, to do their good deeds, as this is saying, so that they can glorify Jesus and keep the eyes on Jesus. So it both benefits Jesus because it glorifies him, and also benefits you because it helps keep your eyes on Jesus so that you don't ever stray away. Because it is possible to stray away and then suddenly lose your chance to get into heaven. I would say like, well, like, because like as easy as it is to start believing in someone, it's just as easy to forget believing in them. And I feel like that would still have you lose your chance. So both of them are kind of easy to do, like, but just keep doing the good deeds. And they don't have to be huge good deeds. Maybe while you're waiting for something to come, you could do some smaller good deeds to manage your time. Maybe you're waiting. Maybe you have a mission, but the mission trip hasn't begun yet. Maybe what you can do instead is simply maybe like offer some kind words, either outside or maybe even on online forums. Yeah, so you can definitely manage your time with both. You can do the big ones, but you can also do the small ones. And sometimes you won't always have time to do big ones, but you pretty much should always have time to do something small. I try to be nice. I try to be kind. I'm not always kind of nice, but simply just like doing that can be a way. Like, even indirect stuff like that can be a good way of maybe getting people to see the light, see the truth. Speaking of seeing the truth, it's pretty cool. The next God's Not Dead is coming out September 12th. I don't think a lot of like the theaters, I think it's one of those like movies that may be like gone to the wayside maybe forgotten about a little bit more just because it's not really one of those blockbusters. Like, people usually do that when it's like a Christian movie. Maybe they don't advertise as much, but I'm just letting you guys know. Maybe set your calendar, maybe keep it open sometime just to watch it, because it should be a good movie. Like a lot of the other God's Not Dead movies, I would say, were good ones. Oh yeah, and fun fact, they also have books based off of them too. Maybe that's also something that could be easily mixed, but yeah, there definitely are books, so there should be ones for the first 4. And then you might have to wait a little bit. I'm not sure if the movie's coming out before the book. I think it's usually the other way around. So maybe the 5th book is out. I just don't know about it. But if it is, maybe you can let other people know that's out, and then you could also get that book as well. I have, I think, at least one of the books. Maybe the God's Not Dead 2 is the one that I have. I think I got that from Bookman's, maybe. But anyway, pretty cool. I haven't read it, but I'm sure there won't be any language in it since it's a Christian book. That's usually how it is for Christian books. One of also another good things about getting Christian books is that you'll definitely not have any bad stuff in it, so it's good for all ages. Christian books are pretty much always good for all ages. There might be a couple of Christian books that happen to be like using stuff just because the author thinks they're relevant to the plot, but I think to the plot, I meant to say, but I think for the most part, Christian books should be pretty safe for all ages. However, there is also a site. If anyone wants to know what it is, I might link them to it. I could always link it, but there's a site where you can check to see which authors use dirty language and which authors don't. It's more just focused on which of them use dirty language and which ones don't. So they might have other things that are a little bit inappropriate, but at least for that you have a website dedicated to that. So they talk about which ones are Christian authors. They kind of explain which ones are Christian authors and which ones just don't decide to use the dirty language for one reason or another that are adult authors. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Might even go over which young adults authors don't use the dirty language either. But I think it's mostly focused on adult authors. So an example would be Lee Child. He does. I could be wrong, and if I am, maybe someone could. I think he does use more minor dirty language, but he doesn't use the F words, which I think for the most part is what people are mainly focused on anyway. So if anyone wanted to know that about him, he's the writer of the Jack Reacher novels. So maybe if the James Bond uses a lot of dirty language, maybe this could be the next best thing. So I've been getting a few of his books, maybe checking them out a little bit. I got a few other books too. I got one book that looked kind of interesting that's called Fantastic Numbers and Where to Find Them. Kind of a parody tale, but it's not really a parody book, I would say. I don't think it doesn't seem like a parody book. It just happens to be a parody tale based off of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It's just about numbers that help define the reaches of the universe, I mean, based off of that seems pretty interesting. So they go over some of the most important numbers. So hopefully that's not filled with a bunch of dirty language. But I guess maybe I can let people know in a community post if if it is. But maybe someone can remind me by putting it down in the comments and asking hey, did you finish it yet? And then I'll get back to you when I did. You could also just tell me on Facebook Messenger, and maybe I can just post it down in the comments or my community post, along with sending you a message on Messenger. Anyway, And of course, like on Messenger, we can always just have normal chats as well. They don't always have to be like focused on the verse or the stuff. Like maybe we could just have more normal chats. Like maybe if you want to ask me for advice on what kind of deck you should build in Master Duel, or maybe Master Duel advice, because I'll try to give you as much as I can, but I might take a break on Master Duel once I finish this series, so I might not be able to give the most relevant advice, but I can always try. Or I'll probably be more focused on Magic, mostly like physical Magic, so maybe I can give more relevant advice on that, and plan to maybe focus my time on just one card game instead of like multiple. Even though technically you can play multiple without spending a whole bunch of money, I kind of like to stay relevant with cards. So, but that's pretty much that's just me. So that's why I want to stay focused on one, so I can keep doing that without it really breaking the bank too much. But I'm still trying to think about, like, do I really need these cards if they're expensive? And then if not, maybe just hold off on them. Anyway, I guess Mole Cricket is kind of one of the ways, but it's still kind of to maybe make the fusion maybe a little bit easier. And maybe if you were focused on the fusion, maybe you could play a few more fusion based cards, but just kind of difficult when the Neutroia Blessing, like if you have to give it up to do the special summon, you can no longer do the fusion synchro. It would be nice if it said you could like activate from the graveyard later on to maybe make the fusion, but you can't. So it makes it kind of difficult, because usually you're thinking like you have to do one or the other, and usually you have to force out the special summon. Just sort of annoying. Anyway, I think I'm going to go over the Goosebumps now. I wanted to get to that before this duel finishes, because like I pretty much go into the storyline right away. So luckily I only have one, so I'll try to be quick. It was it came from Beneath the Sink. So the book, they defeated it in a slightly different way, but I like how in the show the friend was a bit more supportive. He was a little bit of a jerk in the book, but I guess it's understandable. Like sometimes kids are like that. But I kind of like how he had more of a supportive role than kind of like a dick role. Or hopefully like using that kind of language isn't too bad. I apologize if it is, but I think it's fine. It's like not one of the worst offensive ever. And I'm just saying that because yeah, I forget his name, but it was a black. I'm not trying to say this in an offensive way, but it was like that black friend, that like the friend of the brother, basically. To give you a better note of who I'm talking about. Yeah, he had a lot more of a supportive role in the show, which I think is also good anyway. Maybe to help support that race also. Support the race that he comes from. So it's probably good that he had a more supportive role in the show. Not just because I like that in general, but also because of that. But yeah, I think I do like it when like kids support kids. And another thing is, I think a lot of the times, like in the episodes, in the actual episodes, the adults maybe are a bit more supportive. Like in the books, maybe they're a little bit more jerks. And so I think maybe a lot of the people are just more supportive when it comes to the shows, and if so, that's kind of good. It's nice to see stuff like that. But anyway, I kind of like how they defeated it, and it was pretty much said and done within the book. Like basically, I think they pretty much did get rid of it, but It's a little annoying the way they kind of quote unquote defeating the show, because now she has to play music. Remember to put on the music every day, which I'm sure is gonna get quite tedious. So anyway, I think I enjoyed the way they defeated the book a lot more, but I did enjoy the Sportive Friend a bit more. So I'm gonna give it to both for different reasons, but I would say the book had a better ending. I don't know. I like both. Once again, I think it's kind of a tie. So anyway, I'm showing off the scenario appearance cards again. And of course, if anyone wants more to say about the verse of the book, feel free. If anyone wants to support me, you can still use my affiliate link. I'll keep them up even while I'm taking a break, so feel free to support me with those affiliate links. With the arrival of the worms, the era of peace in Natroya Forest was ruptured at last. At first, they seemed to be no more than a minor curiosity, like others that appeared in the forest from time to time. And so they were dealt with in the same way as any other interlopers. But it was futile, for the worms did not cease. On the contrary, their numbers grew day by day. The entire forest will be overrun if things continue like this. A number of the Natroya stood up, vowing to take down the worms and protect the forest. These were the keepers, the most powerful beings in Natroya Forest. As days went by, the fierceness of the conflict only increased. In occasional moments of respite, Natroya Leo Drake looked back fondly on the time of peace that was now but a memory. It seemed he had been fighting almost non-stop. He couldn't remember the last time he had laid down to sleep. Such is the strength of Leo Drake's relentless fangs and ravaging claws that even the worms proved no match. But the numbers are overwhelming and the assaults keep coming one after another. The ever-dependable Natroya beasts and Natroya Bacchion, and even the usually static Natroya Landoids, have been called into action again and again. Leo Drake had hardly a moment's rest before he heard the wing beats of an approaching Natroya Horneedle swarm. They had come with a message. A great host of worms was on the way. Noticing the unrest among the trees, Leo Drake braced himself for combat. The previous series of battles had taken a toll, chipping away at his strength. Nevertheless, Leo Drake will fight on. The forest must be protected. This place where we live in peace must be preserved. The lion of the Natroya rouses himself, letting out a louder roar than ever. Then he charges straight into a horde of worms, laying waste to all in his path. So there's the end, and as you'll see, it unlocks the secret pack, but I don't go over that in detail. But anyway, thank you all for all you who came and who are subscribed to me, and I'll see you in the next video, which may or may not be the last of the Mastle series. Bye everyone.